After you enter all your information, you should double check to make sure spelling, punctuation, capitalization are all correct. I will be looking for that. That includes all the way out to emails. Now notice, I can remove these hyperlinks if these are giving you a problem by right-clicking on the blue hyperlink and remove it. That way, if I want to edit and double-click in a cell, I can get in there and fix somebody's email address if by chance I misspelled it. Whereas down here, if I get over the top of the blue hyperlinks, I can't double click and edit. It's going to open up an email option window, and I won't be able to get up in there and fix it. So it might be a good idea to remove your hyperlinks, but that's totally up to you. Okay, we're up to our last step or two where we want to go from something like, let's say, this kind of a document to that, where we put in the alternating colors, and then we want to alphabetize that list. And as you add more and more people over the years, you're going to need to constantly re-alphabetize. But when you re-alphabetize, if you use the paint bucket fill to put colors in these rows, unfortunately, not only will the information move, but the color in the row will move with it. So we're going to lock the colors in with a formula. And it's a tough formula to remember, so I'm going to even copy and paste it myself from the existing formula I have, and I'll dictate it to you so you can, in case the picture clarity is a little fuzzy, you'll still know what we're typing here. Okay, show you how I did it. First, I highlight all of my columns. I start in A all the way out to, well, in this case for me, P. It depends on you. You might be only going out to K or L or whatever the columns I tell you are. And to conditionally format, go back to the Home tab. There's this drop down here, conditional formatting. I get the drop down and I look for, in your case, if you're going to ask for a new rule. First, I better go back and find my formula that I used for this to help you out. And here it is in here under Manage Rules. And I can't see the whole formula, so if I choose one and I edit it, I can borrow the formula for you. Here's the first formula. I'm going to copy this, Control C, just like when you're using Word. And I'm going to close the box down just so I can get back to my other sheet. I'm going to switch back to my non-formatted sheet. I'm going to highlight those rows, those columns, all the way out to P. Now here's how you'll do it. Conditional formatting, new rule. And you're going to choose this last choice here. Use a formula to determine which cells to format. When I select that, I get an empty box right here. I want to put that formula in there. I'm going to paste it in, then I'll read you the formula. It says equals capital M-O-D, all capital letters, open parentheses, capital R-O-W, and then open parentheses, closed parentheses. That's not a zero. That's an open and then a closed parentheses, side by side. Comma 2, close parentheses equals 1. Say OK. Well, excuse me, before you say OK, format, go to the border, or fill, and pick the color you like. Now, don't pick dark colors. I advise you to stay in this row here, these very, very light pastels. That way the font will be easy to see through it. I'm going to pick two that I think are somewhat contrasting. I'll go with this sort of pink-orange looking color here. I'll say OK. Then you can see what the example is going to look like. You could also, by the way, if you really want, you could change your font and change the font colors and things like that too. But you want them to really stand out. So whatever contrast you have, in this case I'm going to stick with a black plain font, but make sure that the background is lighter than the font. The font should stand out the most. Don't pick dark colors. I will take points off in the exercise if you do not stay with very, very light shade pastels. Say OK. Notice every other line is pink. Okay, they are all still highlighted. So now I can go back to conditional formatting and do another new rule. Now I have to, once again, go borrow the second rule. It's a whole nother formula. All right, let's see. Let me get my rule. It's under Manage Rules for me. Here's the second one. I'm going to borrow this formula. Control C to copy it. I actually know these formulas off the top of my head, so I guess you can tell I don't get out very often, unfortunately. But here we go back to the non-formatted. I've got my columns highlighted. I go conditional formatting, new rule, that final choice again, this box, and I'm going to paste the rule in there. And the rule is for the second color. There's even a way to do 3 colors. I don't even want to go there right now. And if you're ever interested, I could give you that formula too. I have it listed in your direction sheets. But it's equals capital A-N-D, open parentheses, capital M-O-D, open parentheses, capital row, open parentheses, close parentheses, comma 2, close parentheses, equals 0, close parentheses. This is saying add and another color in the opposite rows where the value is false. That's what the 0 is about that ends this. In computer language, 0 means false, 1 means true. So that's helping dictate the colors here. Computer language is all in codes of ones and zeros. Now I need to pick my color. Good contrast for my fill. I had kind of a pink, either, oh, let's say a green or a blue is probably good. I'll go over here to this blue. That should contrast well. I'll say okay, that's what it's going to look like. And there's my alternating colors. Now, alphabetization. What I've got here is it done by the names of the schools, notice. Pretending I was applying for a job. What if I wanted to make it by last names? Probably more typical for the address book you're going to do. All right. What I do is I highlight just my information for the names. I don't start in A1. Those are titles. I want to leave that alone. I go to A2 in my case. You look where your information is. And I need to highlight all of the information because if I re-alphabetize by the last name, I want the information on their line to go with them. So I've highlighted in my case from A2 all the way over to P11. You might just want to alphabetize from your first column, row 2, with your information out to where your columns end. And then I go up to the Sort Filter drop down on the Home tab over here, and I go Custom Sort. And I'm going to decide to sort by last name. So I use the drop down, go last name. And what if some people have the same last name? I'm going to add a level, and I can go then by first name. And I could continue to add more sorting levels if I need, but for most address books, that should work. I could, of course, go by the school names, but just to show you how this works, I'm going to choose last name and first name, and I say OK. Notice now it's not by company name. Now it's by their last names over in this column. And all of their information is moved. Notice the alternating color stayed in place because of the conditional formatting of the formulas. Please check your address book carefully before you send it in an email. And when you send it in an email, please, please, please follow the email instructions from the previous lesson. I will still be giving you points not only for your address book, but for the way you email it. You will not need to CC or BCC it. You will just send it to me, jrafter@ for the shortcut.